Hello, welcome to Local Matters. My name is Vicki Evans. The Tucson Museum of Art nestles in one of our most historic neighborhoods. And since 1924, the museum has brought the world of art to us all. And we're going to learn more about this remarkable place and the things that it houses and does as we welcome Meredith Hayes. Meredith, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Meredith is the Director of Public Relations and Marketing at the Tucson Museum of Art. And we also welcome Julie Sassi. And Julie is the Chief Curator and Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art at the Tucson Museum of Art. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. What does make our museum since 1924, I mean, it's been here since 1924, unique among other art museums or establishments in our area and then also in the world?
Well, it's very reflective of how unique Tucson is. One of the main components is the fact that we focus on three areas: art of the American West, modern and contemporary art, as well as art of Latin America. All those three areas you can see in the culture in the city around us and all over southern Arizona. And the other component that makes us very unique is the fact that we are a historic block also. So we're not just about displaying art, we're also about telling the story of Tucson, how it got started, how it's grown up over the years, and we have that in examples of period homes and exhibition spaces that people can come in and learn more about where Tucson began.
Right, because it is. And there, we're taking a look, that's part, I think that houses a lot of the Western exhibit, doesn't it?
Actually, that is the Stevens Duffield House, which is the Art of Latin America, also known as the Palace Pavilion. If you go a little bit south of that is where the Edward Nye Fish House is, and that is the Goodman Pavilion of Art of the American West.
And how old are these row? These were row homes, correct?
These were
row homes.
Yes, adobe row houses, and they were built in about the mid-1860s, some a little bit later than that. And it's wonderful to go in. You can see the saguaro rib ceilings that they have in there, and there's still a lot of...
And the floors are a little like this, but it makes it wonderful. The walls are this thick, you know, or this thick.
They're very thick, and there are parts that you can actually see the adobe bricks and see how thick they were to, you know, keep it warm in the winter and cool in the summer.
Right, and it worked too, for the most part, I think, right,
Mm-hmm.
Julie? What about, I said 1924, the museum began. Can you give us just a little history of that? And then I know that we have something to show you also, but Meredith can talk us into it here.
Well, the museum, as you said, started in 1924. We've always been in the El Presidio neighborhood of downtown Tucson. For 84 years, we've made downtown Tucson our home. And we started as a fine arts association, starting to show some exhibitions and really grew into more of a collecting museum in the 1970s, and growing up now at 84 years old into a wonderful museum that's poised on being a world-class institution.
Right. And we want you to take a look at a tour of just all and what the Tucson Museum of Art is about. Let's take a look.
Take a journey through art, history, and culture at Southern Arizona's premier visual arts destination, the Tucson Museum of Art and Historic Block. Founded in 1924, the Tucson Museum of Art encompasses one whole city block in the historic El Presidio neighborhood of downtown and was once part of the walled fortress constructed by the first European settlers. Blending the traditional with the inventive, the Tucson Museum of Art presents original and traveling exhibitions emphasizing art of the American West, modern and contemporary art, Latin American art, and boasts a permanent collection of more than 7,000 objects. The historic block consists of 5 properties built between circa 1850 and 1907. 2 houses, La Casa Cordova and the J. Knox Corbett House, are kept as period homes, showcasing the transformation of Tucson's lifestyle in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. 2 other properties, the Edward Nye Fish House and the Stevens Duffield House, are home to gallery spaces dedicated to Western and Latin American art. The Romero House has gone through numerous alterations and is now home to the Tucson Museum of Art School's ceramic studio. At the center of the block is a lush courtyard with a sculpture garden and waterfall known as the Plaza of the Pioneers, which serves as a hub of social and cultural activities. On the east side of the museum's campus is the Education Center, featuring the Tucson Museum of Art School and the Research Library. The school offers year-round studio art classes in painting, drawing, printmaking, ceramics, photography, and more. Each summer, the art school opens its doors to children 6 to 16 years old for weekly art classes, led by some of Tucson's most talented artist educators. The Research Library has more than 12,000 publications, including Tucson Museum of Art publications, National Museum publications, monographs on artists, and material on art history, with emphasis on modern and contemporary art, Latin American art, art of the American West, and art education. Of course, no museum is complete without the fantastic offerings of the Museum Store. Featuring a selection of works by Arizona's most revered artists and craftspeople, the Museum Store has one-of-a-kind handcrafted glass, pottery, textiles, jewelry, and multimedia artworks available for purchase. No visit to Southern Arizona is complete without experiencing all that the Tucson Museum of Art and Historic Block has to offer. Inspiring discovery, creativity, and cultural understanding through meaningful, engaging experiences.
That was the Tucson Museum of Art. I'm Vicki Evans, and you're watching Local Matters. And Julie Sassi is the Chief Curator and Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art at the Tucson Museum of Art. And Julie's going to talk to us a little about current exhibitions. Yes. But I have to ask you, what is a curator? It's a word I think I know, but I bet I don't, really.
The curator is actually, primarily it's a scholar, someone who has a particular discipline or area of expertise. And of course, the curator would be an expert in the area in which the museum collects. So that curator not only cares for the collection, but the curator makes recommendations for new acquisitions, perhaps for deaccessioning certain pieces that are no longer appropriate or of the standard of the museum as it grows. But also the curator puts together exhibitions based on the collection or based on the interests of the community and the mission of the museum that helps to engage the general community with art, to help them understand more about the art of their area or art from an outside area, but puts it into context so it becomes educational and entertaining and sort of exposes the public to new ways of looking. So they do not only a care and custodial of the work, but they also interpret it and do a lot of the catalog writing and that kind of interpretive material that helps make it enjoyable for people to see.
And so currently there is an exhibit
Yes.
that just really started in February. So tell us about the exhibit.
It's a very exciting exhibition. It is a touring exhibition. It came from the Museum of Art and Design in New York, and it's been traveling all over the country and even as far as Alaska. So we are actually the last venue on the tour, so it's very exciting for us. And it is called Changing Hands, Art Without Reservation 2. And it's contemporary Native American art from the Northwest, the West, and the Pacific. A few years ago, we got Changing Hands 1 here, and it was art from the Southwest. And so now we're having the second phase of a 3-part series. It is very exciting. There are over 150 artists in the exhibition, and it is in a variety of materials: contemporary glass work, beadwork, carved wood, stonework, many medium approaches, and with a contemporary look, but also much of the work harkens back to earlier traditional art forms of the Native American.
Right. And information, we have some information about this exhibition. That's really the proper term, isn't it? Rather than an exhibition. It's called Changing Hands, Art Without Reservation. Contemporary Native North American art from the West and the Northwest and the Pacific. And this is running at the Tucson Museum of Art from February 9th through May 11th. And that's, again, Changing Hands, Art Without Reservation at the Tucson Museum of Art, February 9th through May 11th. And if you want to find out more about the Tucson Museum of Art, always please go. Always something new and wonderful at the museum. 140 North Main Avenue in historic downtown, and the phone number is 624-2333. That's 624-2333. TucsonMuseumOfArt.org. That's TucsonMuseumOfArt.org. So, Julie, what goes into making an exhibition? What do you have to think? Now, this one came to you, right?
Yes.
Or came to the museum?
Yes. For touring shows, there's a lot of research into everything from would we be able to house the number of materials that are coming? Does it fit within the budget? Does it fit within the mission? So there's a lot of research and discussions among various members of the museums, the staff, community members to see if it's an appropriate fit for us. Those shows are usually planned 2 years out. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that kind of exhibition. When we do what we call in-house curated, where the curators here at the museum formulate their own ideas, that can sometimes be even longer. I'm currently working on an exhibition that's opening in 2009 that I noticed that I've been doing research and correspondence since 2002. So it takes many years.
So it'll be 7 years,
7 years in the making, but it takes that long to come up with the ideas, to notice trends or see certain movements that are perhaps happening or certain ways of looking. But then it takes that long to find the material. Sometimes it's from the permanent collection and sometimes it's from other museums or combinations. So with that in mind, it takes lots and lots of research and looking, and for me, several trips to New York and perhaps to many art fairs. And it's all, of course, wonderful research. It's one of the
It's what
joys
you
of
love,
my
I
job.
can tell.
Yes, going to studios and visiting galleries and speaking with collectors. So these things happen over a long period of time. It really does take a lot of planning.
Right. So once again, now Julie is curator of, well, chief curator, but also of modern and contemporary art. And what is how would you designate that? I mean, what is modern and what is contemporary art? I kind of thought when I saw the exhibit changing hands, I thought, oh my gosh, contemporary. It could be with a culture, a geography, a location. Oh my gosh, you could have hundreds and thousands of little subclasses of contemporary art.
Of course, it's a big debate. What is modern, what is contemporary? But in general, the scholars usually use like around 1918 when the Armory Show came to New York as sort of the advent of modern art. And it ends around the end of the 1960s when minimalism and abstract expressionism had come and gone. So usually for our purposes, contemporary art is, say, early 1970s and forward. But in general, it's the 20th century, and then now, of course, we're definitely contemporary times. Contemporary means art now, contemporary.
It's happening right now. Meredith, does the museum have to pay sometimes for the artwork that comes?
For a permanent collection?
Or for exhibition, I guess.
Exhibitions, as Julie mentioned, if they're traveling exhibitions, there are fees involved, rental fees involved in it, as well as, you know, creating the correct budgets around it. For in-house shows, it's a lot of time on the curator's part, as well as there are some expenses involved in
Lots
that.
of shipping.
And this is
actually
without
one of
even
the
buying the art. This is
Yes.
just getting it here. And
Creating, shipping, advertising, reproduction rights. It costs just to be allowed to use an image in a catalog.
Oh
The
my
printing costs for the announcements, the mailings, the catalog fees are very hard to justify sometimes when you're seeing you have to print thousands of catalogs in order to get the word out. And if you travel your exhibitions, then you have to build in fees to presuppose traveling crates and condition reports. So there's a lot of underlying fundraising that has to go in, and a lot of pre-preparation that goes beyond just taking the work from a truck and putting it on the wall.
which is, I think, kind of what I had in mind, which
Well, it's so much more than just hanging a pretty picture on the wall.
it is, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot more work involved and a lot more expertise involved, and those are some of the things that we try and help educate people to understand really what is it that we do. It's not just putting a picture on the wall like you would in your living room. There's a lot more to it.
Well, I was just thinking, maybe a light bulb finally after all these years over my head. You know, when you see something that is spectacular in an exhibition, you know, you're not just looking at the piece, it's all the things that brought, you know, in its past that made it
The
what it is.
preparation.
Yeah. You know, what are the artist's vision, or how the artist was brought up, or what hers or her background is. So you're seeing more. You're getting a whole novel for the price.
Yes, for the $8 admission.
For the $8 admission. But you did mention now permanent pieces at the museum. How does that work? When I said, do you pay for pieces?
Well, we are a collecting museum, so we do have a permanent collection of almost 8,000 works of art in it. And those are the three areas that I mentioned that we focus on: the art of the American West, modern and contemporary, as well as Latin American art. And those are our collecting areas currently. And Julie and the curators work together with a committee that looks at certain pieces over, we meet
every 3 months.
3 months. And meet to discuss different pieces of bringing them into the collection. And
we get them as donations from collectors. We get sometimes collectors who are willing to ask us what we need, and they're willing to give us donations.
To share, they really
right, so they actually underwrite or fund the acquisition. We also have a contemporary art society, we have a Latin American art patrons and a Western arts patrons group, and they raise money for us so that we can acquire certain pieces. So with all of that together, we sometimes get donations from artists when it's the appropriate fit. So there's many different ways we acquire the works in the collection. And that is also something the curators are doing all the time, is looking for new pieces to build the collection and finding those wonderful sources, not only of money, but of the art itself.
Right. And then, so there's all of that that's happening. That seems like a 24-hour a day job to me. But I know that the museum, we saw in the piece earlier, education, there's tons of outreach that the museum does with the community.
yes, I mean, we are a museum of art. That's part of what we do. But also that includes education, because you need to learn to understand about the art and understand its place in your world and how it affects everything that goes on, whether it's the car you drive, the clothes you wear, or the picture you hang on your own living room wall. So education really is the core of what we do. And we've got some wonderful programs that we work with school children as well as families, and bringing in well-known artists and scholars that come in and do gallery tours for what we call the adult programming. We've got some wonderful programs for this exhibition, Changing Hands, Art Without Reservation, too, that Julie can speak of.
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Well, we have about 150 artists in this exhibition, so there are many artists who are part of this. We can only bring in, a couple of selected ones, but we do have Corky Claremont on March 6th, who will be speaking about his work. We have an interesting panel discussion on March 20th, and that's going to be Doug Coffin and David Bradley, two artists who are now living in Santa Fe. And as luck would have it, I have a background in contemporary Native American art, and I knew these artists for many, many years, over 20 years in Santa Fe when I lived there. So we're going to have a panel discussion about the changing perceptions of contemporary Native American art from what has been called the Santa Fe Native American Renaissance to contemporary times, to find out if, from their perspective, has the market changed, has the way people look at Native American art changed, and a little bit of reminiscing about the good old days when we were all, young and rising stars in the art world. They were the rising stars, I was working for them. But I think it'll be very exciting because both of those artists are very well established and they have a very good perspective. David Bradley has a very strong opinion about the ideas of authenticity and people sort of getting on the Native American bandwagon for profit. So he has a bit of a political, controversial look at the market. And Doug Coffin has gotten more of an international reputation, so he has a little bit of a look at the international art scene in Europe as well.
Right.
So it'll be very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And then perhaps we can show it to you once again. It's the exhibition is Changing Hands, and it is Art Without Reservation, contemporary Native North American art from the West, Northwest, and the Pacific. And it runs February 9th through May 11th. 2008, of course, this year. And this is the group where David Bradley, you said, and Coffin will be on a panel talking about.
Right, and I'll be the moderator, so it'll be a very, we like to think a very lively
And if you can't
discussion.
remember what I've just said, because I probably couldn't, and it's always so much, please call the Tucson Museum of Art, 624-2333, 624-2333, or go to the website, TucsonMuseumOfArt.org. And remember, if you haven't been to the Tucson Museum of Art, or it's time for a brush up, you know, because you need brush ups, I think. They're located at 140 North Main Avenue. What about some future? I know Julie talked about some things you're working on, and especially one in 2009.
Yes.
That's taken that long.
It's going to be very exciting. But before that, we have a wonderful exhibition that's being organized now by our curator of Latin American art, Fatima Bercht. And it's called Mexican Photographers Today, Facing a World in Transition. This is going to be a remarkable exhibition. It's coming primarily from a private collector. They have traveled to Mexico to see the latest work that's being done. It's going to be a very interesting look at what's happening in Mexico in the way of contemporary photography. There will be a catalog, and two noted scholars in Mexican photography are going to be contributing to the catalog and will be coming to speak. So this is just a tremendous opportunity for us to show how much of a commitment we are making to Latin American art. In the fall, we have our new curator, Thomas Smith, our curator of Art of the American West, will be presenting A Place of Refuge, Maynard Dixon's work that he created from Arizona. So this is coming up in the fall, and he has a wonderful program and a catalog. So we have some remarkable new scholars, new curators that I'm very proud to be a part of that team. So way before my exhibition, which is going to be dealing with natural disasters and our changing environment and how society and nature interact, we have some very exciting exhibitions coming up.
We do. Always busy. And once again, the three areas that the Tucson Museum of Art focuses on and really is makes it unique is the Native American, or you say
It's,
it.
Art of the American West, which includes Native American art,
Yes.
modern and contemporary art, as well as Latin American art.
Latin American.
And there are many ways people can help support the museum. Definitely coming down and seeing what we have to offer is one of them, but we've got some wonderful events, especially this spring, that people can come down, enjoy, and still be a part of the museum and help support the arts in Tucson.
Because where does most of the funding come from for the museum? You're not really, the city doesn't really donate. You're not funded by the city of Tucson, are you?
We are not. We do get a small amount of money from the city, particularly for the care and maintenance of the historic buildings that are on the historic block that surrounds us. That is the only money that we do receive from the city. Most of our money does come from donations, from memberships, from wonderful fundraising events, especially three main ones that we have coming up right now. It's those kinds of things that do help support the museum. We always love people to become new members. We've got a wonderful array of benefits that we offer depending on the level that they wanted to come in that they can afford. And it's a great opportunity to help support community efforts here.
It is. So once again, we'd just like to give you the information about concerning the Tucson Museum of Art. And it is located at 140 North Main Avenue in historic downtown, 624-2333. TucsonMuseumOfArt.org, TucsonMuseumOfArt.org. I know for myself, as I said, I had not been to the museum for many years and just went about a year ago and spent a delightful day there. And you forget how kind of caught up in your own part of the world and your own life you can be, and to step in and to see all that's there just kind of was, you know, life looked pretty good after being there. You know, it was just fun to be there.
It's in some of the really fun things that we have going on that hopefully will encourage people to come down. We do have our wonderful Spring Artisans Market, March 28th, 29th, and 30th. It's a time that all the galleries are open and free, so people can come down, they can do a little shopping, maybe listen to some live music, enjoy a beer or two on Saturday and Sunday in our beer garden. We've got that going on at the end of March, and the weekend after that is our fabulous Crush Wine Festival. So if you're a wine connoisseur, you'll definitely need to go onto
Julie's
our
smiling
website.
here.
I'm smiling. I'm going to be there.
You have to be there, right? It's part of your
have to.
job.
Yes, I mean, the Crush Wine Festival is really shaping up to be an incredibly fun weekend. We'll have some workshops beforehand in the month of March. I encourage you to contact the museum if you're interested in this. We'd be happy to send you an invitation, talk to you a little bit more about what's going on at the museum. And as always, we do have our state-of-the-art house raffle happening right now, which is a fabulous way to win cash and support the arts at the same time.
Yeah, it is. And Julie, we only have a couple of minutes left. And for people who are afraid to go to the museum or afraid to learn about art or think it's beyond them or below them or beneath them or who really needs it, you know, what would you say to people like that?
The things that I've seen that have either offended me the most or confused me the most or angered me or made me wonder, why is this art? When I do a little reading or spend a little time looking at it, those are the pieces that I think about the most. I think that it's your one chance to go to be challenged. Things are made very easy for us. And so while we try to help people by giving us our impressions, sometimes it's just spending a little time and get into another creative spirit, another way of looking at things. And I think it's being open-minded and allowing yourself to be entertained as well, even if it's to laugh or to judge. We go to movies and come away rating the movie and analyzing it and thinking about it, and it's the same thing with visual art. It just means taking some time to enjoy.
And the Tucson Museum of Art is the place to do that. Take some time. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
That was fun.